You can understand why the British monarchy, the British royal family, are rather nervous about this latest, shall we say, bon mot from the former President of the United States, the 45th President of the United States, no less, Donald Trump. As ever, let me explain. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Thank you so much as ever for joining me. Nice to have your company today. Now, listen, I just wanted to thank you for your lovely comments about the actor that we sadly lost, John Savardant. I'm glad you enjoyed the story about his illustrious, mistakable meeting with none other than, of course, Princess Margaret. It does make me laugh even every time I think about it because he told it so brilliantly well. And as I said in the interview, and the chat, sorry, it's the sort of thing we all do, isn't it? And have you ever done this other one as well? Talk to somebody completely for ages and have no idea what they're called, and yet they're citing things, they're telling you about certain things, what they did, what you did together maybe, and you think, no, you see? I know it's terrible, isn't it? And then you're wandering off thinking, who is that person? And you've still got no idea. You see, it just happens to all of us, doesn't it? Now, someone, of course, who possibly doesn't have this problem, because seemingly everybody in the world knows who the former 45th President of the United States is Donald Trump. Now, there's no two ways about it. Mr. Trump is a huge supporter of our wonderful British monarchy. And as I told you before, Her Majesty the Queen and Donald got on incredibly well. They just had a kind of fun bond, I would say. She thought he was a bit like a naughty boy, wouldn't behave, kept wandering in front of her, all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, he's always spoken with huge respect for the British monarchy. And of course, by somebody who knows him incredibly well, who I constantly work with, tells me that he was appalled at the way that Harry and Meghan treated the Queen in the very last years of her life. He couldn't believe it, in fact, that they could be so disrespectful. But you see, this remark recently from him about Harry and Meghan, who was asked on a recent rally, well, basically it sent a lot of, shall we say, shudders across these sort of senior royals over here. And this is simply because of this. You see, when you think about it, clearly Donald's made his feelings clear. He doesn't really think too much about, of course, Meghan and Harry. And as he basically said, he felt sorry for Prince Harry. Well, what's interesting to note here is simply this. You see, they feel, senior members, that this now may provoke Harry and Meghan to get political. As we saw a couple of years ago, sat on that bench looking like two miserable people, they did sort of more or less hint about their political leanings. And we already know that Meghan Markle is simply not a fan of the former president. That's her choice, that's anybody's choice, But of course, the more political they become, the more it rubs off back here on the British monarchy. And that is a big fear over here, as you can imagine, They like to remain neutral. And as we saw in 70 years at the throne, we never really knew, of course, the Queen's political leanings. What's fascinating, I find, about this is that, of course, if he does become president, things are going to become very tricky for Harry and Meghan. I don't think that he will hold back at all. As that close chum told me, the way that he disrespected his own grandmother will basically stick with him for the rest of his life. He simply couldn't believe it. Now, whether his thoughts remain the same about the cable TV actress Meghan Markle remains to be seen. But either way, if I was Prince Harry, and of course Mr. Trump does, imaginably, get to become the president once again in the White House, it could be very tough for you being a citizen of the United States. That's if you're still there, of course. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.